Hey class, my teacher for a day topic is Musicophilia, the brain and its mysterious relationship to music. Neuroscience first fascinated itself with music and the brain in 1990. Music is now looked at differently than ever before. This book, written by Oliver Sacks, investigates the intersection between music and neurology and its potential as affliction and treatment on patients who have neurological imperfections. Different types or aspects of music will have different success rates depending on what it is trying to treat. With patients who have frozen Parkinson's disease, they are unable to move. Oftentimes, the beat or rhythm in the music can enable them or motivate them to move. For patients with amnesia or dementia, the focus is on the feeling and familiarity of the music, which will help them to remember. Individuals with imperfections in the frontal lobe or who are diagnosed with autism are not able to openly express emotions. However, they can emotionally relate to music. Sachs goes on to explain that in these cases, it is almost as if music acts as the part that is missing in their brains. Lastly, in cases of aphasia where people have lost the ability to speak, we often see that these people are miraculously still able to sing and produce language that is embedded in song. In these cases, scientists believe that if the patient practices this frequently enough, they will be able to eventually regain this lost motor skill. The pictures on this page represent the diseases that can be treated by music therapy. The top left one is a brain that has suffered amnesia. The one next to it on the right is an Alzheimer patient. The one under it on the left is someone who suffers from autism, and the one next to it on the right is someone who suffers from aphasia. It is very common to see color or experience taste when listening to music. The people who experience this have something called synesthesia. This is when their senses can be activated by things that shouldn't necessarily trigger them. More often than not, people who see colors are associated with pitch, pattern, or rhythm that appears in the song. People who have this assume it is universal. Not everyone can do this, though. Only people who can focus beyond what the artist is saying and interpret every element of the song. When researching this, they saw that when listening to music, the part of the brain in which color is processed is stimulated. Sachs discovered that in cases where people are colorblind, they can listen to music and sometimes see colors that they have never seen before. This is called Martian colors. All humans have a deep confusion of the senses in the first years of life. For most people, things differentiate and this confusion stops. But what is seen in people with synesthesia is that these senses are not fully differentiated. This is why when one sense is stimulated, often so are the others. Synesthesia could also be when someone associates colors with numbers or letters. Music can often stimulate powerful emotions like the ones that are experienced when one is in love or on a drug like ecstasy. It is even possible that when one listens to music that can make you swoon, this can often provoke an orgasm. When listening to music that makes us swoon, it lights up parts of our brain that usually light up when we make physical contact with a partner. This is why sometimes music has the ability to give us chills, make the hair stand up on the back of our necks and our arms, or sometimes give us goosebumps. We get overwhelmed by the music and it can affect us emotionally or physically. When music becomes stuck in our head or involuntary, it can become pathological and can usually lose its meaning after a while of being repeated in our minds. The music industry thrives on this and tries to create music that will invade our minds. This is a huge factor in creating popular music. These snippets of music that are so catchy have been labeled earworms. These earworms work their way into our brains. This has to do with the human brain's love for patterns. When the brain can identify a musical pattern, it will latch onto it and analyze it so thoroughly until there's nothing left that we can do with it. Absolute pitch is when someone can recreate or identify perfectly a sound that they had once heard before. This trait is very uncommon, and the people who have this will usually pursue a musical career. This trait is not hereditary and is usually seen in blind people. This is because a massive portion of our brains are dedicated to vision and the occipital lobe. Once the brain once the ability is lost, there is a huge vacant space in our brains. This is taken over by and shared by the other senses, sound being one of them. This means that their sound and ear for music is heightened. This being said, they can identify with music on a more intense level than the average human being. Absolute pitch is not learnable or acquirable unless started at an incredibly young age. So class, that was my Teacher for a Day project on Oliver Sacks's Musicophilia. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and learned as much as I did. Thank you.